Hey guys, welcome to the Insiders of Omaha podcast. I'm Christian Morrison. This is Tyson Compton. We're excited to bring this to you. Thanks for watching, viewing, and subscribing.
Hey, Insiders of Omaha is a one-of-a-kind podcast here in Omaha, bringing you an inside look of the movers and shakers in Omaha and what they're like and how they think, so you can learn from them as well as get to know them and have a personal time that you usually don't get an opportunity to have. And we look forward to you guys listening.
Heck yeah, let's go. Boom. And then we just dive into conversation. Whatever.
Sounds good.
It's really about learning about people. Just learn about how, brainchild behind some cool things that are going on in Omaha. And I mean, obviously, I love going to stories and it's hard to reach out to Chris. It's like, oh, he'd be fun to be interesting.
That's right. I forgot that's how this connection was through Chris.
Yeah. Chris is a funny guy. You guys are pretty close to them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He is an intense dude.
Is he?
Yeah.
In a good way?
Yeah.
Dude. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's like a hummingbird.
Dude,
It's just
crazy.
Always
Nuts.
Yeah.
always on.
Yeah.
Like I have to prepare sometimes. I'm like, because I'm like this. I'm just
Even keel.
Yeah. But he lives like 192nd Maple. We're on 180th and Blondo.
Okay.
And our kids are super tight. So we're always getting together, and he brings over a bottle of bourbon and we'll chat, and it's like, This was intense. This was a late night,
And he's an educated
weeknight.
guy too. Like it's not
He's
like
a good dude.
He definitely does a lot of his research. Strong Christian.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a good dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I have all my brothers live outside of Omaha, so he's my brother here in Omaha. But
Yeah.
we'll go round and round.
That's funny. That's cool.
Are we recording? We're ready. Okay, sweet.
Well, we're here with Dan
Yeah.
Loutzenhiser.
Loutzenhiser or
Loutzenhiser.
Loutzenhiser.
Terrible with names. I
Good job.
apologize.
No, I think you got
But we were super excited to have you on, man. Stories Coffee,
Yep.
the brains behind the business. So I'm a huge fan of Stories Coffee.
Same.
We've both been there both the time, all the time.
My wife's favorite spot. She's there. She texts me. She's there right now.
Yeah. And if
That's
I ever
cool.
had a chance to meet up with my sister, that's a big thing we do is we go to coffee all the time. It's like, hey, Stories is where I want to go.
Yeah.
So just kind of checking. I was familiar with Stories way back before you guys purchased it.
Yep.
Can you talk to us? Where are you guys at right now? What's going on with Stories right now?
So Stories has 3 locations now. We just opened 2 in Midtown Crossing back in December, and then Gretna in September, and the 114th one, which a lot of people tend to go to. We do have our smaller locations at Lifegate Church as well as Little Bees. So right now in Omaha, roughly 5 locations. We're going into Lincoln in June, actually.
Awesome.
Sweet.
So kind of an opportunity there that presented itself. And I went to college there and kind of familiar with what Lincoln is and what Omaha, obviously, the demographic and just kind of the business community. So excited to go into Lincoln, engage with the community there. So cafes-wise, growing. We are looking much more towards retail and wholesale as well. So partnering with
the roasting? Wholesale?
Yeah.
So we roast our own coffee. We roast some on site in Omaha, but our main facility is up in O'Neill, Nebraska, where I'm from.
Yeah.
We just invested in a 7,000 square foot space up in O'Neill.
Sweet.
Real estate's a little cheaper
Yeah.
in northern Nebraska than it is Omaha, but so we're excited about what the future brings for roasting and wholesale and all those components of it.
So as we start to see, you've seen a lot more models shift to more like a drive-through.
Yeah.
Stories is obviously carved out a niche in more of this cafe, be present where you're at, put your feet inside the store. How did that kind of come about? And
They have drive-through as well.
drive-through, but I'm saying not standalone. So
you mean like a little,
ton of
not like the little coffee hut drive-through.
Right,
Gotcha.
right.
Yeah.
What just any particular reason or what?
Yeah, I mean, scooters and other places have been doing a great job with that.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a need for that. I think, we got into it, to build community.
Okay.
And I think, my wife, Brooke, and I really focused on having a space that, people would want to come in and connect. And I think we'll never shy away from that. Obviously, we're business people. We want to make sense of, there's a need for drive-through. We'll try to create a cafe that has both drive-through and interior space. But it's not a model that we're really looking to do.
Yeah.
And plus,
I like
we
that
do
better.
everything by hand as well. We do handcrafted espresso-based drinks. And so there's some things just operationally that we wouldn't want to jump into for drive-through that, wouldn't be well thought of.
Right.
Use manual espresso machines.
Yeah. So everything's done by our baristas, you know, by hand.
That's awesome.
And so not a lot of automation that, you know, automation's great. It does help with throughput and certain things. But we'll never shy away from the handcrafted part of it.
So what got you interested in it back in 2017 when
you guys bought it?
The former Stories was like no longer, and then what happened? How'd that story come to be?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the story behind it is just, it's like anything. I mean, there's journeys in life, there's chapters in life, and I had been going through a personal tragedy. I lost my wife back in 15, and really kind of just reshaped the way I looked at, you know, my career, my life. I had 2 girls at the time. Had a passion for building a business that I could use my passion for coffee. My dad and I were roasting coffee just as a hobby, as well as what I felt my calling was and my skills were in the business world. And, you know, what better thing than to open a coffee shop and create that community space and to develop that at the time. And so we had talked about creating a coffee brand and a business back in 16. And I met my now wife, Brooke, in 15 as well. And she kind of fanned that fire, and she's like, hey, let's pursue this. And so at that same time, Stories Coffee House on 108th and Pacific was closing. And we had gone there, we were customers and just loved it, and knew that there was certain things from that business that we wanted to continue on. But then infuse our own brand and our own look and feel and where we wanted to take it. So we bought the name and a few items there and sat on it for a little bit and operated as a mobile cart, and then waited for COVID to hit to open up our coffee shop.
Perfect timing, right?
And you guys are doing a massive remodel beginning in that too. Like you guys were for all your huge reno at the flagship store on 114th. And like it was like everybody's kind of waiting. It was like great marketing, kind of just like, you know, you're prepping the space. I just saw it everywhere on Instagram. You guys were doing a great job. And like you said, COVID hit. And I did not necessarily partake in COVID like a lot of people did. So I will say
decided to skip it.
So my wife had an inkling about like, oh, this is kind of serious. That lasted, and she's like, you need to be home during the day. And that lasted 3 days. Like, this ain't happening. So I'm like, I'm out of here. But I was like watching for this. And I was trying to follow this. And I like design and stuff. I was like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. And we actually, the F3 guys go there every morning on Fridays and just love the place. And so we frequent that all the time.
You were probably one of the first ones in there when things started like allowing ourselves to open back up in May.
So that was really cool. But so curious, wow. So upbringing was kind of rising out of the ashes a little bit, kind of tragedy with your wife. What was your late wife's name?
Kim.
So, and how was that? Looking for a kind of a fresh start. It sounded like too, maybe like you were kind of like looking for something else out of that.
Yeah, I was actually in healthcare. I was director of operations for CHI. And so climbing the corporate ladder, you know, had VIP or VP on the list as far as the next step. And not that couldn't have been a great, you know, route. I had this itch, and, you know, a lot of people call it, you know, the voice of God or whatever, you know, which I strongly believe it was, but moving into something that I felt would be my ministry, my calling. And it definitely has been confirmed over the years. It's been definitely a long and challenging journey. Corporate life is great in a certain degree as far as just, you know, guaranteed income and all that fun stuff. But we don't look back on it one bit. And so that all happened kind of within those 2 or 3 years. And then in 2020, that's when we're like, hey, we gotta move on this. And found the right spot. We actually looked at a couple different locations, and now we know that wasn't meant to be. 114th and Dodge, right across from Starbucks, you know, an old Little King and an old dance studio combined, created 3,500 square feet of community space.
I love that.
So that was our recipe for what Stories is. And we had an idea of what the identity was until it was actually built and tested. You know, the community and our staff and everybody else helped to define what that actual brand was.
That's awesome.
Where do you want to take it?
I'd love to continue building the cafes, you know, Omaha, Lincoln. I really see an opportunity though in the retail and wholesale.
What part of retail?
So like our 12-ounce bags.
Got it. Okay.
If it's sitting on the shelves at Baker's or Amazon and stuff
End
like
cap
that.
stuff. Like you're talking about shelf space.
Yep. And subscription models and stuff like that. So I think that route is definitely on our horizon.
Sounds like you have a passion for the roasting part of it.
Yeah. It's something, my dad, he's 73. He's still actively involved in.
That's awesome.
Something that we connect. We used to hunt and fish and talk about that stuff. Now it's all, roasting and coffee and let's go to this place
cool,
and check this out. And
Does he live up where the roaster is?
He does. Yeah.
He does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he kind of mans that operation up there for you?
Yep.
Wow,
That's really
fun.
cool.
What's it like to work with your dad like that?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
He's cool. He's my role model. I mean, he's, like I said, 73 and he is as energetic and passionate and just, I hope that at his age, I'm still like that plugged in and sharp. And not to say he's old if he does listen to this, but he does run circles around me sometimes. And it's so cool. And just his heart, and he's always giving. He's always blessing people. And he just does it because he wants to take care of people and he loves doing it. And so it's not about making a lot of money. If we make good money out of it, that's awesome. I want to take care of my 4 girls and all that stuff. But it truly is building something bigger than what we are and establishing our legacy and our ministry through it.
Yeah. You mentioned ministry a couple of times now. Would you mind expanding upon that a little bit? Like what you said as you felt a little called to this, more of my ministry. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I grew up a preacher kid, and my dad's obviously a pastor. I thought, calling in ministry was standing, up on stage and preaching and doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think as I've aged and understood much more, every person's given talents and gifts, whether it be in the business world or truly in the ministry in the sense of being a preacher. I was given the ability to build relationships, create a business, and establish a place for people to come in, feel comfortable, whether they're Christian or not, just come in and feel comfortable to be in our space and, just be normal. People ask, who I am, I'll share my faith. I'm not going to push it on anybody, but I think creating a culture that, is in line with the values that I see that I'm reading in the Bible, humility, kindness, just strong ethics, will resonate within the business in itself.
I will say, this is a compliment to you. One thing I appreciate, I feel like it's filtered down from the story leadership is the people that work at the front have a genuine welcome attitude as soon as you approach the front and order your cup of coffee. And not only is a cup of coffee to me like it breaks open your day.
Oh yeah.
But the way in which you receive that, and if somebody's preparing it for you, is such a added element that needs to be capitalized on. And you guys do such a great job with that. I don't know if that's something that you guys talk about or preach about with your guys' people who work for you, or if it's just the quality of people you guys bring in to work for you. But it is definitely evident every morning I'm in there. That's really cool. Appreciate that, and it only layers on what that cup of coffee is supposed to bring.
That's awesome.
I appreciate that.
I can't take any credit for that. I mean, obviously we create a culture collectively, all of our team. But we don't go and, run through the top 5, got to do these things. It's just, we try to obviously hire, best fit. And then people just, bring out their true qualities and, we're not too scripted, hopefully. But I think that is, to your earlier point about the drive-through, it's not that you can't still have that connection.
Right.
But I think that's what's so important. And so much what our world needs is post-COVID and just that connection to be able to connect with people over a cup of coffee or, a transaction since from cash register.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I can definitely tell that the space is exceptionally intentional. Like what you guys did in there and what you guys have created in all of your spaces. I even go to the LifeGate spot.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We love going to that one.
Even though that's kind of a pop-up style setup, it's a really great fitting space for that. Just because it's reflective. People are not only conjuring in this foyer of this church.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty cool.
I just have noted, I feel like the coloring, I don't know if did you guys go through professional help to get that kind of achieved? And it's really well done.
Yeah. We, obviously we started with Pinterest.
Yeah, right.
And going out to Portland.
Like everything.
Yeah. And so we had all the images of what it was going to look like and feel, and then we needed somebody to come alongside of us. And so Julie Hockney from Hockney,
we were just talking about
JH Design,
good
good friends of ours actually, and she worked together with my wife, Brooke, and they asked my input every once in a while. And I was either
Then they stopped. Then they stopped to
make you feel good.
Yeah, they always know where I stand. At least I'll tell them like what I like and don't. But the two of them together and her team, Julie's team, like took that vision and put it in place. And then like we knew deep down inside like where we would want to be and go to as customers, and ultimately just a team effort. And it was cool. We couldn't have done it without them.
That's awesome. Yeah.
You said before that you have 80 employees right now, right?
Yeah.
So going from in corporate world to managing multiple locations, 80 employees, what's that been like for you mentally?
Obviously there's a lot that, you know, we can still improve upon as a business. We will always, and I'm always probably the worst critic on that. And I think having that corporate background, I'm always aspiring to have much more, you know, professional development, all these certain things. Yeah. As a small business, that's tough with a small team. But what I've understood is it's all about who you have around you. And I'm a firm believer in diversifying your skill sets. And I know I'm a visionary. I know I'm, you know, X, Y, and Z. And my team, our team needs to be complementary. And so as we continue to grow, are exposed to certain areas in our business that we need to hire in for or find help with. And so seeing the corporate life, being able to understand kind of what good things we can pull out of that and applying it into the restaurant and the small business world, kind of what I'm trying to like marry the two.
It's interesting because I feel like small business just talks bad about corporate world all the time. They're like, we don't want to be corporate. We don't want to be corporate. There's also a reason corporate is so successful.
Yeah.
And that's because they're organized.
Yeah.
They do the inside, they get training, they get their people together.
Cohesiveness.
There's a lot of stuff you can pull from corporate structure.
Oh, absolutely.
And not be the corporate mentality maybe.
Right.
But corporate structure has a lot of good things about it.
Yeah. 100%.
I've never heard anybody say that before, but I think you're right. I think that's kind of the way. You got to merge the two of like a family business.
Yeah.
And a corporate structure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The values of a family business, structure of corporate.
Yeah.
What's it like, you know, coming from corporate structure, having to run things up the flagpole, if you will, for like getting things, and healthcare can be a juggernaut of a beast trying to run things, to get things approved and trying to get things done. Now you're the guy.
Yeah.
You know, how is that, how have you approached that, or how have you had to change, you know, kind of grow who you are in that role? Yeah,
it's definitely a shift. I mean, you know, being in a corporate setting, you have colleagues you can go run over and bounce things off of. You have, you know, so-and-so from HR and such. And now all those roles are you or your wife or your team. And it's great, but it's also like, I think I'm a very team-based, you know, kind of let's call everybody together, let's talk things through. And so sometimes there's nobody to call together other than the people in my head. And that's great, but it's also kind of, you know, intimidating and overwhelming. And so I think I'm at a point understanding just how important mentorship and you know, other groups, you know, whether it be EO or other organizations that have, you know, entrepreneurs that can kind of bounce things off of.
For sure.
And then seeking advice, you know, whether it be from your dad or your pastor or your old colleague back in the corporate world, to just understand that not everything has to be just restaurant based. It's industry by industry. There's commonality between healthcare, real estate, and the restaurant world that, you know, it all kind of has some sort of common denominator.
That's a good point, because like real estate is so centered around real estate only training. But I think I've learned the most outside of real estate.
Yeah.
You know, and bringing it, being like taking that framework and taking it into real estate.
I think too, with to kind of build on that, you know, the real estate stuff is the science portion of it. You know, you're learning some of the administrative, the legality, the compliance, but then the art is
good point.
Learning yourself and how you connect with people, and then trying to attract that like you guys said, hey, we know what we want to see in this, and we know what we would like to go visit. And that might sound really singular in hopes that other people would like it too. And you don't realize, like, because we know we like it, we know somebody else is going to too. Right. And that's a pretty cool recipe to kind of come that recognition. That's pretty awesome. So you have 4 girls, right? Any interest in them wanting to work there ever? Like, how's that looking? What do you foresee there?
Yeah, our middle child and our oldest too, she'll whip up lattes. We have a little machine.
What are their ages?
12, 10, 3, and 1.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so Like we'll play around, and I think the oldest wants to be a hairdresser or something like her aunt, and the middle may, but it's like, I mean, we don't want to push it on them too hard. But it'd be great to see him, start working there at 15 or 16, just see where it goes. But I don't know.
No pressure to it, but just
no pressure.
But legacy a little bit too. Like, hey, you have something you can learn here.
Yeah, exactly.
Neat, right?
Yep.
Christian's parents, that was a lot of their vision too. Family owned business, and that can take on so many different forms. You know, I mean, maybe the pinnacle would be, you have different mega families, but then this is a family owned business too. This is, what would you say would be some of the biggest sacrifices you realized you had to make, but you didn't think you had to going into it? Like, I did not expect I was going to have to do that. As you start a business, you were coming from corporate America, and then
I think that like structure, like I said, I mean, there's every 2 weeks, you got, X, Y, and Z for comp, benefits, all that stuff. And now I'm the one doing all that for all my 80 employees. Meanwhile, trying to understand like how all this plays out with my own. And,
like, is there enough left for me?
Yeah, exactly.
So true.
And that's, the reality of it, that, it's not a dire situation by any means, but it's a very, like, you're so in tune to all of that. And every little thing, if somebody throws a cup away or whatever, like, you're dialed in, and you never turn it off. In the corporate world, I think there was a stepping aside, stepping out. I always had my email on, but I had out of office. But anytime you're anywhere, it's always in the back of your mind. And so I've really, forcing myself lately to just try to like mentally tune out a bit, not off, but just to disconnect.
Put mute on it.
Yeah. Because it is really, like they say, if you're not working, you never work a day in your life. Well, you kind of are, but you aren't, you're still always on, but it's enjoyable. I don't mind pulling up a Google spreadsheet 10 o'clock while I'm trying to fall asleep. Like, it's weird that that's fun, but I like dialing that stuff up. It's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah. That's cool.
So you're talking about, like you said, I'm guessing, I think I know what you're talking about this, but you said throwing a cup away. You're talking about like an employee throwing an extra cup away type deal?
Yeah.
So it's so funny because I'll give you the background a little bit. My family owns restaurants. And so growing up at 14, I started working in them. And then by 18, I was running them. And so at 18, and at the time, they actually didn't own them. My dad was just partners in them. Now he owns them once I was done. But the cost and the bottom line, like, he was shocked when he learned how low bottom lines are in restaurants. The margins are so low. And so I remember my dad just being like, every little thing is a penny. But like him talking about throwing away cups is like, boom, PTSD flashbacks from seeing an employee throw away 2 cups. You're like,
that's
dude,
10 cents.
Literally, it's a big deal. Because, you do cost analysis of 80 employees throw away a cup a day for a year. It's a lot of money gone. That's like, it could be 1% of your bottom line gone.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And so it's just funny because it took me back when you said that.
Sorry to get that PTSD moment there.
No, it's good. It's good. I forgive you. But it's relatable. Like, I totally relate with that. And he's still that way. You know what I mean? Now he has 20 restaurants, so it's harder to be like dialed
that's
in
the tricky
on each
part.
thing.
As we've grown, we've been less able to keep our eyes on everything.
And you've done it really fast.
Yeah.
In a few years, that's really fast to do it. He did it over 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's better to do what you did and go faster, because he still can sometimes get in that mentality of like the one store, being in one store. He's had to force himself to step back and let his people do their thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And trust your people. And if you go faster, it's harder to harder to get stuck in one store.
Tear the Band-Aid off right away.
Yeah. You have no choice. You have to be everywhere. You know what I mean? Or you have to manage from the top down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do they call it in the military? There's like a term for letting people do what they want that I've heard like 100 times.
Going on their own program? Like,
no. It's like there's like a term for it. You know what I'm talking about?
Message for Garcia?
No? What? never heard of that one. Message for Garcia?
Well, Message for Garcia is referencing a short book about taking an order and just following through.
Got it.
And not asking questions. And there's trust.
Decentralized command.
Decentralized
That's
command.
what I was thinking of.
So Google both of these things.
Message Garcia is, and take this letter for Garcia.
The
kid never opened it.
Just
and that's why.
Did exactly what he was told.
Just exactly what he was told. And then the story.
Got it.
It's pretty cool.
I like that, actually.
It's it's a combination like loyalty, trust, honoring the elements of command,
Yep.
structure of command,
Yep.
stuff like that. But,
That's what they told you to brainwash you to make sure you never ask
yes,
questions.
never question, even unlawful or stuff. Just kidding. But that's cool. Yeah, that's what that was about.
Yeah, decentralized command is what I was thinking.
Yeah,
where
decentralized,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
important, so
Yeah.
you can work autonomously. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to do though.
It is.
Oh,
really
yeah.
hard.
It's hard to really trust
trust
other people
thing.
to take care of your baby. you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah.
What? So when you first started opening up the first store, you're at 80 employees. Now you start with what? Maybe at 10, 6? Where were you at?
Yeah, it's by 20. Yeah.
So what was one of the major first crucial hires you made that helped alleviate some of that? What did you look for, and how did you know you were ready to do it, or what was that role
Like management, you mean?
Yeah, like what did you need in your world to? You're like, okay, this could get out of hand really quickly, and I can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah. I mean, we fumbled a lot at the beginning. The opening itself, obviously, we were told the week of that we couldn't open, and then we could, and then it was like drive-through only. And so,
What was that like? Like hearing that? Like, did you think about that was going to happen? You're like, probably not going to open. And then you heard it for real. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Right as you try to get started.
Yeah.
Dang.
that's just, I mean, just crazy how it works that way. In hindsight, it was awful, terrible, but probably allowed us to just have a bit more time to refine ourselves because we were a brand new concept, brand new team, jumping right in the restaurant world. And then secondly, too, Starbucks across the street, closed down, and a lot of like just dynamics. I think that customers were looking to re-engage back in the community. They found us
They were
like,
thirsty for some coffee.
yeah, to go through all that now in hindsight, as painful as it was, it's okay. I think
Yeah.
it kind of leveled out and it was fine. But when we opened, I was still working full time.
Okay.
And I was trying to do things kind of like, this way and that. And then I dropped down to part time. And then finally I went 100% in. But we had managers in place.
You were still working at the
at CHI.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had managers in place. They didn't get enough direction probably from us as well to begin with, because we were trying to kind of
You were trying to figure it out.
and we were
totally.
trying to figure out whether we can be open, all this stuff. It was just nuts. And then it kind of just leveled out. And then what I understood then in sense of one of the most important hires, not that the other ones weren't,
Right.
those were all very important, crucial people because they developed the culture,
Yeah.
the identity
Yep.
of who we were. But then bringing on Jeff, our director of operations, to really help tackle a lot of the day in and day out stuff that I necessarily have time nor ability to probably dig into.
And he's from Panera, all right? Or from
Paradise,
Paradise.
yeah. Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah,
Great
he's a good
guy.
dude.
Yeah.
So he helped really focus efforts on operations, while I also, had my points that I plugged in with. It just kind of that really started this, like, each of us trying to identify our roles and
I
so
love
forth.
that. Yeah.
And so when we're still doing that, I mean, that was
Yeah.
one location. Now it's 5 and then
Right.
growing, but that was a big hire, and I owe a lot to him as well as the team we have.
So you hired Jeff. Jeff was working at another cafe-based style place, but probably given a lot more leash away from that corporate structure of that franchise model. Have you seen some of these guys grow, and you almost not expected, like, wow, this is really awesome. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's been growth or me just finally understanding like their true talents and skills, and then trying to
Yeah, that's a
maybe
big one.
move them more towards that. I love finding people's strengths and trying to hone in, not give them everything just because they can do that. And I think that's probably what been the biggest growth is. Now I understand, Jeff, 2-3 years later,
Yeah.
truly where he finds fulfillment, loves to really plug into,
Yeah.
and where he can provide the biggest value for the business. And before I maybe thought, hey, Jeff, you need to go sit behind and tackle all these emails. That's not, Jeff doesn't do that.
Right.
That's maybe my corporate upbringing and how
Yeah.
I communicate. And so there was a lot of learning of like, kind of moving away the agenda heavy, committee based email stuff and digging straight into like, let's figure things out on the fly, but also take some of that and try to be proactive and build a little bit of structure. So we're still refining that. It's only been 3 years. And so still understanding how Jeff and I can work together, and how, Brad and I and Bethany and Chloe and I and Luke, everybody that's on the team, we all kind of now bring our own true business culture together.
That's cool. You hear different, I don't know, let's say like different philosophies on this. You sound like you kind of have almost a really nice set up almost like a family, pretty close knit group of your upper echelon people. Do you feel like it's important that you get close and know them intimately about, their family lives as well? Or are you, I like to keep a little bit of distance in order to just, understand our roles. Yeah. How do you handle that? Especially in a culture of a coffee shop.
Honestly, from my experience, that's a really tough thing.
I think it is too. Yeah. That's why I'm kind of curious about it.
Yeah. It depends on your personality, I would think. If you're naturally an introvert, it's pretty easy probably to shy away when people start talking in their groups.
Right.
But it's hard when you invest so much into them and you want to know them and you want to know what ticks and why they're upset one day and not the other. And so as we grow, it may just be that we're not able to plug in as much to, 100 plus or 200 plus or whatever, God takes it. But that's not out of choice that we would be disconnecting. It's more out of just, I got to get home and take my kids to dance. Like, I can't sit around and look at your cat's pictures. I don't want to be disrespectful, but
I got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of naturally has happened.
Yeah.
And, probably normal and healthy, I think.
Yeah,
but
totally.
I want to know why people tick. And hopefully we never get too far away from that.
When you were a young kid growing up in O'Neill, how were some of those skills fostered or kind of developed in that small community? Would that have a large impact on you and how that all kind of came about?
Yeah, it was over a cup of coffee and, it was after church and it's just, you didn't have a lot of distractions. We didn't do all the select sports, all that stuff. We just went over to people's houses and talked and connected and built forts and did that stuff. So I think that's just naturally ingrained in you. And, small town or big town too, Omaha or whatever. It's just your wiring. And I think I was wired that way.
I don't know since you moved around a lot, I grew up in Kearney, small town, smaller town, Nebraska. But I just always remember people just dropping by the house.
Yeah.
Saying hi.
Same.
And I was like, I just always liked that. I liked being around people too, but so-and-so stopped by for some coffee or a drink. And it was before supper time. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, the kids are crazy. It's like, oh, come on in. Yeah, have a seat. You want a cup of coffee? And then you brew up a cup of coffee or a decaf. It was 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yep.
And I always just loved that. And now it's like, oh God, it's the Amazon man again. It's like ringing the doorbell or but ever since my parents moved to Omaha, be closer to the kids and grandkids, I just enjoy stopping by and saying hi. Just sometimes unannounced, and if they're not home, I'm not bummed about it. I just want to say hi. I was in the area. I love that because it does provide that sense of kind of vulnerability of just ease of connection. Yeah. It's not forced. Unlike, a scheduled time podcast, come in, we're going to talk about your life, but I just think that's really cool that you bring that up because I think that is something that's kind of a lost pastime, lost tradition a little bit.
Oh, yeah. So our lives are just so busy anymore. Yeah. And
it's also kind of the reason I like doing this so far is when else would we have sat down and just talked for an hour?
Yeah.
Probably never.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably never.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What, so you guys are going for growth. What got you more into the distribution wholesaling side? Where did that start from? Because you guys are roasting your own beans, but now you're like, oh, I see an opportunity here.
Yeah, I think, it's purposeful in the sense that you can't really grow into that space without brand recognition.
Yeah.
And so now people know, I guess, a lot of people, I think, know of Stories.
Yeah.
And so you stop in 156th and Dodge Bakers, you see Stories Coffee on the shelf. Like, oh, okay, I love that stuff. Let's give it a shot. So you can't jump in day one, into that space. But we knew from the start that was always going to be one of our strategic initiatives in the sense that we need to be focusing on how to get it outside of just the cafes, you know, and get it into the house. And I think that's where now that, we're 3 years into this plus, we feel that there's going to be value in growing that part of the business.
You mentioned and subscription as well, right?
Oh yeah, that's interesting too.
You can do the same thing like at home. You can just go online and get it shipped to you type deal.
Every 2 weeks or whatever.
I like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that and that's being done across the country with different folks?
Yeah. We didn't invent any of this stuff.
I did a subscription from this company in Wyoming one time.
Did you?
Yeah. And it was like a bunch of different random types of beans, and I loved it. Yeah, because we're both really big into coffee too. So I would love to do subscription stuff.
Oh yeah,
because sometimes I'll be like, I forgot to go get coffee.
Yes.
That's the worst morning of all time. Yeah. And you're like, dude, now I got to go get it. That's horrible.
Stories too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's the remedy, right?
Yeah. So, your wife Brooke, is she involved at all, helping out with stuff? What's kind of her role as a kind of husband spouse business?
Yeah, she's super involved, and she was working full time. She's a nurse practitioner at Children's, the NICU. She dropped down to part time. Obviously, with 4 kids, that is in itself a lot to really orchestrate. Yeah. So it's a tag team effort with that. Yeah. A lot of times, most of the times, especially the youngers, she's primarily responsible for all that, and then she's really gifted in design and events and such. She oversees our social media as well,
right?
And does a lot of things.
Like, it's super good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that she does that are just. She doesn't like the light. She wouldn't do this probably.
Right. Yeah.
But she'll champion or she'll cheer me on and say, "Hey, go do this," and then I'll try to pull her in. And it's such a great relationship that we truly complement each other.
That's
and
cool.
I probably drive her nuts just because I'm always talking about things and I try to shut up. But she's truly a partner and the business partner that couldn't do it without her.
That's terrific. What? Whose idea was it to go beyond coffee? Like, because it's not just a coffee shop; it's a community space.
It's food.
It's food. Good food.
Good food.
You got beer, wine.
Wine.
Like
that's actually my favorite part.
Yeah,
I think, is that most coffee shops nowadays are like just coffee and a couple little BS bakery items.
Yeah.
And they're open till 1.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's like my favorite part of stories. Actually, is that you have that. There's more food options. There's beer and wine. You can hang out there.
Totally out of
That's
the
my
box.
favorite part of
It's
coffee
totally out of
shops.
the box. I think that's awesome. What we're looking from. Yeah.
It's like you went back in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like to what they used to be,
Yeah.
and they all got away from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's honestly my favorite part of stories. Is that part of it?
Yeah, I think it was, kind of unique, obviously, for Omaha, but we did go to like Portland for inspiration and stuff. And that model kind of exists, but we just wanted to create, obviously, an all-day destination.
Yeah.
And knew that, if we felt that we would go here and frequent it maybe in the morning and then at night for live music or something like that.
Love that.
Others probably would. And so we kind of tested that, and it turned out that we were right, I guess. But we tripped into a few things, to be honest,
Really?
too. Like the food stuff, like building out a kitchen was kind of done at the 10th hour. We were going to try to source some of that stuff and do it, but we had some great advice from a close friend and somebody we were working with to set up things to say, hey, try it, do it yourself and just go all out and hit these categories. And we did it. And it turned out, it was a great decision to make at the end, but
Like right before you opened the first one?
Wow.
Yeah,
No
a couple
kidding.
months before. And there was a lot of
Good
just
advice.
Yeah.
That was good advice.
So we owe a lot to him, and knowing that is roughly 30% of our sales is food.
Oh wow,
That's big.
That's way more than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So breakfast, breakfast sandwiches. It's something that's made on site, that's warm, that's hearty, that looks as if you're not just pulling out of a bag and throw it in a microwave.
For sure.
Like we make our own eggs there. We heat everything on point on demand. So there's a little bit of a step up from like your
Starbucks
fast
or whatever.
food. Yeah.
From where you were at, you said you're kind of climbing the corporate ladder. Things are going well. You're like, hey, I'm on the path. This is kind of pretty sweet. To now, how much fun are you having doing this versus that? When you didn't know what you didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, this is great.
Yeah.
What's the difference there? Like, how's your quality of life?
It's great. I'm usually a glass half full guy, so I found tons of value and tons of fun in corporate setting too. But I think I'm finding a deeper meaning.
Oh, I love
and
that. Yeah.
It's not as if like right now isn't all roses and it's hard, especially with the demands of 4 kids and everything that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And supporting a business that's grown really quick.
Yeah. So quick.
Yeah, that
3
in
years,
itself
so
has
fast.
created
Especially with the build outs. Like that's alone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Like you don't just have a storefront open. You are building out spaces.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's
And
like half the amount of
multifaceted
probably take a year and a half out of the 3
challenges.
years to
Yeah.
get that done. Yeah.
Yeah, some say maybe too quick, some say not quick enough, whatever.
Right.
But for us, that's what we chose. And
Cool.
it was a lot to go that much, that fast. So it didn't change, I guess, my fulfillment. Obviously, it brings on different stressors.
Yeah.
Much more of an internal, personal stress that there's a lot, riding on this.
Sure.
Yeah.
That before, not that it wasn't in the corporate setting, but you're shielded from a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so what I've gained in deep, meaning and personal, and what I think Brooke has as well, and as the people that we work with, you know, I've also taken on other elements that wouldn't say that one's better or other. Seasons of life, seasons of a business that you just go through, and it's pretty cool. And hopefully 5 years from now, it's just a different season, and I'll still have those stressors. But it'll just be a different drive and different goals, and that's what's cool about it.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Huh. Yeah.
What do you see like the rest of your growth being? You think it's going to be fully focused on the roasting retail, or you think you'll keep going on locations as far as you can go with that?
I think
Combination,
we need to test it. Obviously, you can't have one versus the other. You know, the cafes support the other vertical integrated products that we might be
almost like that helps the brand elevate the other side.
Like Lincoln, if we wanted to get into, you know, a grocery store there, build out, you know, subscription base for them, you know, we can't not have a cafe. And
good point.
We can't not continue to grow who we are as a business to help people understand what they're buying into and the community aspect of it. So we won't probably open 2 stores in 6 months like we did the last 6 months, which is crazy. But I think we'll continue a path, hopefully be strategic about it. And if stuff comes up, we'll vet it and decide. But I'd like to have 5 to 10 cafes in Omaha at some point.
Cool.
I think you can
the market support it.
Definitely
there's enough people and enough. Well, especially too with the communities surrounding Omaha are in such need of some of these spaces. You know, your Benningtons, your Elkhorns, your Gretnas, which now you're in, and I mean even like Fort Calhoun and like Blair. They have nice little downtown spots, but there's just not a lot of options for that kind of stuff. You know.
And there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of really strong business people in the Blairs in the world that if they can come together and help or work side by side with us, we can help them. If it's Bob's Coffee Shop that they want to open up, they can have Stories Coffee and Stories products. But, you know, that in itself, we want to help bring about that kind of thing in Blair or O'Neill or wherever it might be, so that Stories isn't just about Dan and Brooke. It's about the business and the brand and how it can grow and be recognized and have a good quality product with it.
That's awesome.
How did the Lifegate spot come to be?
So we go to church there, and you know, we obviously have a lot of great relationships with people there, and we actually started there in 2017 as a mobile coffee cart.
Got it.
And so for 3 years we served the congregation on Sunday mornings, 2 or 3 years, and then they went through a remodel and built out the bar area. And our goal was, you know, obviously to support the 156 Dodge community and turn it into more of an idea of, you know, anybody can come in. You know,
I love that.
People don't necessarily feel comfortable walking into a church, which I get. But like I said before, I mean, having that environment where it's welcoming and you can come in and sit, it's plenty of space, great, beautiful area.
I love going in there with my girls because they can run around and stuff.
Honestly,
it's
good energy
noise
in there too. You know,
Yeah.
I've been in there. I'll go in there to do some work, and I think it's cool because the coffee is what brings me in there. I don't mind walking to a church. I mean, I'm comfortable enough doing that. But then I think about the people who might not be and who might be invited there for a meeting, and all of a sudden they see the kids walking by from practicing for a program, or you hear worship practice. I mean, there's little things that if you were, like, you could see
Kinda
God
intrigued.
working in things, just through those drips, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty neat.
Totally.
Yeah, and you're part of that. That's
It definitely sounds like you guys are on the path that God put you on, to me.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you know, everything's working out
neat. Yeah.
the way He planned it for you.
Yep.
Or else things wouldn't be happening this fast.
Yeah.
And to me, it sounds like, because I've been, you know, around the restaurant world so much, the hardest part is good people.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's kind of what you got. And that's maybe your secret sauce is the good people in place.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some hires that we, you know, were
Of course.
unpleasantly surprised with, but that's always going to happen.
Of course. And there's always some that you're like, not 100% sure they're going to work out, and they end up being rock stars.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Hiring's a weird thing like that. You know?
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody at any level of all the things I've listened to have been like, we just do it right. You know what I mean?
There's no secret
There's
sauce.
none.
They're
Like,
lying
I mean,
on it.
you
There's
hear
just all
about
these personality exams and all this stuff. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work.
And you just, even
Not
for somebody
perfectly.
that has proven track record, all of a sudden they just stop proving it, you know, or like, All of a sudden they decide to start proving it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost
It's harder anymore too. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
But that is the secret sauce of any company. Like my dad's always like wanting to grow, and then he's like, yeah, but I don't have the person for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't
Yeah.
know. The correlation
Yeah.
here is pretty distant, but what makes me think about, I was listening to a podcast about the NFL, and the NFL is obviously one of the most juggernaut sports in
Yep.
the world, and they make a ton of money.
Yep.
And then the question's like, well, we need to we need to expand. And I don't know if it's Goodell or somebody was like, we can't. And they're like, well, why not? He's like, there's not enough good quarterbacks in the world to expand,
Dang, dude.
to create the product we want to put on the field.
That's great.
That makes
like-
sense, though.
I was like, holy cow. Like,
Yeah.
what an interesting thing.
Quarterbacks, huh?
Yeah.
That makes sense. How many teams are there in the NFL?
35
30,
or something.
yeah.
There's something.
So is there's probably not 45 that level
No.
quarterbacks, right?
Right.
That's
Oh,
super
100%. I know the
Yeah.
35. What, 15 of them are really worth a salt?
Yeah.
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 That's
So I thought that was
out
really
of
interesting.
out of millions of people trying to be
Yes,
quarterbacks.
right. Totally. I mean, there's not a lack of people trying.
That's
Oh, yeah.
funny because we went to a arena football game recently.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is gonna be awesome. And it was awesome. Like the atmosphere was cool and
Yeah,
stuff. But I
entertainment.
was like, the quarterbacks, the players, you see the level of difference night and day.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And these guys were Division One
Yes.
and
yes.
Division One players. They fumbled the ball constantly.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't get their shit together at all.
interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was really interesting. So now you say that, you're right.
Yeah.
They don't have the level. And
So
it's the same way in business.
Yeah,
Finding
that's what
How does it
high
relate to
level-
real estate? I mean, you got a lot of agents that are popping up everywhere that
Oh,
think they
dude,
can do it.
that's okay. We actually talk about this. You ever heard of the blue ocean strategy before?
The what?
Blue ocean strategy.
Sounds familiar, but I don't
You're
know.
kind of in it and don't even realize it probably. But blue ocean strategy is basically like there's two different types of oceans. There's a red ocean, which is where all the sharks are feeding on the same thing, and it's just blood everywhere because everybody's fighting, trying to get the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a blue ocean where there's a couple sharks, but ton of fish. So it's not blue. The fish are full. There's no competition.
Yeah.
There's enough to go around for everyone.
There's no
Easy.
competition.
Yeah.
And there's a couple ways to achieve the blue ocean, right? Yours is a niche that Omaha doesn't really have the type of coffee shops that you created, period.
And you've
Right.
established that there is a demand for it very
And
quickly.
the quality,
Yep.
and the fact that the brand is driven by people that are believers. People don't even realize that they're in their environment, but they feel it. We needed that, let's say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you created it. You went into a blue ocean for sure with that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In real estate, the thing as a whole is the reddest ocean of all time. There's 10,000 real estate agents here,
Yeah. Well, license. Yeah.
right?
Active. Yeah.
10,000-ish people
Yeah.
active, and 300 people are doing all of the deals.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And the other way to create a blue ocean is you're in the red ocean of real estate agents. And for us, it's doing the things no one else is doing.
Yeah.
It's like picking your own thing. And not only just doing things other people aren't doing, but also working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To be honest, most people aren't full-time.
Oh, yeah.
They use a part-time gig. And it's a hard
Yeah.
thing to be part-time in because it's so competitive.
Yeah.
You have to like dive deep in and work your
Yeah.
butt off.
People don't answer their phones before 9 a.m.
Oh,
Easy.
sure.
Like
Yep.
that's not. I mean, like
Which
it's
is crazy. Like to start out, when I
Totally
first
see that.
started, I've been in for almost 8 years. Tyson's been in for 9. My first 3 years, I didn't even make money.
Yeah.
And I worked 80 hours a week trying to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you get over this hump too.
Yeah.
If it takes 3 years to start making money, who wants to do that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a barrier to entry there,
Yeah.
big time.
Oh, totally.
that you have to
Yeah.
get over.
Yeah.
And I think there's a.
So
There's
it becomes a blue ocean after a while.
And there's an element when you're trying to differentiate. Like it doesn't resonate for me to be like, look at my open house and come by for the cookies. That just doesn't settle for me.
Yeah.
Some people do a really good job with that.
Right.
And I think you just have to understand kind of, hey, I think of real estate as a vehicle for you to be able to create a family and a safe haven for where you're trying to grow. And then now that gives us a relationship to be able to communicate on other things I'm able to connect you with and help you with down the road. Like that, I'm all about, let's help you buy a house, let's help you sell a home, but how else can I help you with in your
general.
life? I have a lot of connections. I'm really good at connecting people and I care about your growth as a person. How can I help with that?
Right.
So
And the investment side, we do a lot.
yeah, do a lot of the investment side. So it's just, you just want to, like you say, you want to have an impact and you want to have kind of a ministry or purpose behind what you're doing and continue being solid on those values that you can lean on. We had a great quote the other day. Your values give you swagger. If you don't know them, you don't have a swagger. And I love that. I was like, hey,
So
if
true.
you aren't clear on your values, you can walk into a room and feel pretty small. But if you are clear, I don't know. I don't really care who's here. I'm here to enjoy myself. I know
Yeah.
where I'm at.
I would give Dan biblical swagger.
Yeah.
I would give Dan biblical.
Yeah, biblical swagger. Yeah,
Biblical
yeah.
swagger?
Yeah, yeah.
That'd
That's
be
what I would label it.
Ministry,
It's
yeah,
cool.
that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's
quite a
cool.
badge. Yeah.
Well, as long as you're not claiming it yourself,
Yeah,
it's okay.
I gave it to you. I gave you the badge. You're
We-
good.
Yeah, I
we
test
just-
my humbleness.
Yeah. No,
That's
but
awesome.
also to go back, you asked, like, I was thinking the real estate side of it too. I will say a big hard thing to do is bringing agents on with us. Let's say, how do you find one of those 300
Yeah.
out of the 10,000?
And
That's
maybe
hard.
they're from the lower tier,
and you can bring them up,
trying to
but
bring 'em up.
that's hard to
Gotcha.
figure out for us.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Challenge. It's
And-
very, very self-motivating. Like,
Yeah.
you can't, and you've been in corporate and now personally owned business, you can't teach hunger. Like, it's just not
No.
teachable. You can't teach hard work. You can't teach
I would
ingenuity.
say my only caveat to that is you can if it's their first job.
If it's okay, yeah.
If they've never had any
Sure.
work ethic,
Yeah.
they've never tried to work or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you can develop that
Yeah.
into them. But not if they're been in the market, been in
Yeah.
the job
Yeah.
market for a
Yeah,
long time.
establish those bad habits.
They already
Yeah.
have done the minimum to skate by for 10 years. Then it's
Yeah,
hard,
totally.
hard to retrain.
His habit's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they have what we talked about yesterday, and this is horrible to say, but it's the truth, something that rewires their brain, like
Oh, yeah.
like a tragedy
or
of some
something,
sort.
yeah. You can totally have a different view on life for some major pain.
And I think that sometimes switches
Oh, yeah.
neural pathways for people.
We had somebody talk about the birth of one of my second born or something like
Yeah.
that. It just had as an epiphany of like, it's time to go.
Oh,
I don't
really?
have time to sit still.
Picked it up.
This has
Yeah.
got to go.
Yeah.
You know, or burn the boats mentality. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no failing. We're just going forward.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
love that. That sounds kind of what you did when you finally said, "Hey, no more part time. It's
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
on."
Yeah.
Which is probably a hard thing to give up, especially with 4 kids, dude. Well, maybe you had 3 at the time, right?
Yeah.
But still, like, I have
Well,
a
yeah.
solid income, and I'm going to give it up.
You did, yeah. I
know?
mean, well, I remember telling Brooke on the patio one night, I was like, we either try it and we'd never talk about it again.
Yeah.
Or just don't do it and don't talk about it. Because
Ah.
it drives me nuts when, you're talking about something, and it's just like, just do it.
Nothing
Yeah,
heavier
I
than
gotta
the
do
weight
it.
of an unmade
I'd
decision.
rather live
Yeah.
with regret
Yeah.
or not live
Defeat.
with regret.
Yeah, the
I agree.
Yeah, and live with defeat, knowing that we tried.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
kind of test
I agree,
that.
man.
But yeah, it's easier said than done. It's scary.
Totally scary, yeah.
I was listening to. I think it was reading something, but I thought it was interesting. I think it was maybe it was about stoicism, but defeat doesn't own you. You own the defeat.
Yeah.
Defeat doesn't capture you if you are intent on continuing to succeed. Because getting up means you've owned what you just happened, but you're going forward. But if defeat owns you, you stay down.
Yeah.
It's just different. It's a
Yeah.
different mentality.
Yep.
And I think that that defeat, it sounds like too, or the challenge is molding you for the next step. I mean,
Right.
God only prepares you for what you can handle, right?
For sure.
And ultimately, the more He gives you, the more He knows you can handle.
Yeah.
I think there's some peace for me in that.
Totally
And,
true.
I mean, obviously, it's anecdotal based on my own life, but I think it's obvious that you grow where you're planted and you're doing it, man.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
awesome. So that's it.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you being on, man,
Dude.
for taking
Yeah,
the
this was
time to
fun.
come over here
Yeah.
and willing to chat with us. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to frequenting stories often.
Yep.
Yeah.
As we continue, we will. And if there's anything we can do to help you, man, we'd love to
This
be
has
able
been
to.
great. No, just talking about it is actually very helpful too.
Good, man.
Yeah. And sharing the story behind it.
Yeah. Giving things life comes from writing and spoken word. And if
Yeah.
it just sat in here
Yeah.
in your brain all the time, it doesn't really get life.
Totally.
So I'm glad you're able to do that. I'm glad you're able to be here with us. That's awesome.
I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah,
with
I
stories,
can't
too.
wait to do that. Hey, we had one on our podcast back then. He didn't
Yeah,
even know my
right.
face anymore. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's cool, dude. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks,
I'll
man.
wrap
Yeah.
this up and
Yep.
have a great week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
You too.
Peace, guys. See you later. Hey, guys. Thanks so much for watching the podcast. Really appreciate it. As always, if you got any real estate related things that you need, this show is fully sponsored by our personal real estate business. Hit below where it says schedule a call with us, get on our personal calendars, call, text, email us, whatever's best for you. Happy to help in any way we can on the real estate side of things. Thanks, guys. Peace.